Hello, good morning, class. Since you can hear me, let's proceed because I'm finding it difficult to hear you at my end here. So our topic is strategic change. That's what we are starting with. Strategic change. So by that strategic change, we are expected to look at what brought about changes, the triggers of change or drivers of change, the different types of things that can bring about changes within and outside the company. So the models of managing change in an organization, that is Lewin's theory. So what are the factors that can bring about the employees' resistance to changes in the organization? So how can we overcome this resistance to changes? So these are the basic things that we are looking at under the strategic change. So to start with, we are starting with the nature of change. So by that nature of change, change happens continually within the organization and their market. So strategic development inevitably results in some changes which need careful management. So as a result, change is either planned or unplanned. So when you look at that preambles that we started with, so what I'm trying to say is that change is constant in an organization. And this thing that we call organizational change is both a necessity for the management, the stakeholders, the shareholders, the investors, the entire employees. And this change are necessary for the company to bring about positive restructuring, proactiveness, reaction to environmental challenges or competitors' actions. Or it might be to adapt to government policy or the need for total restructuring. One or two things always bring about the need for changes in an organization. And as you can see here, we are informed that change is either planned or unplanned. What do you mean by planned change? Planned change or changes, they are proactive changes. We call it planned change because they are deliberate changes. They are formal changes that are put in place by the company top management to achieve some specific positive results. So planned changes are proactive changes, they are deliberate and informal, and they are intended to achieve certain objectives. So in a planned change, the entity makes the change to move from an existing situation, maybe probably uh, changes in certain policy, changes in the method of operation. It might be changes in the scope of operation. So that's what we call planned change. But when it comes to unplanned change, the unplanned change are reactive change or changes. Even unplanned change, you can call it emergent changes. They are changes that happens in response to certain challenges or development in a business environment. So they are called unplanned, reactive, or emergent changes because we don't put in place any plan for them, but they occur as a result of situational issues or unforeseen circumstances. Added to that is what we call incremental change or changes. Anywhere you see incremental changes simply means a fairly small changes. It's not a radical changes. It can be smaller changes in the mode of operation, or like for instance, adjustment in the resumption time or closing time of the workers. That is what we call incremental changes. Or increment, slight increment, maybe about 2% increase in the wages and commission of our casual staff is incremental changes. But when you are talking of transformational change is opposite of incremental change because this is a big change. We call it a transformational change because it requires a major reorganization or restructuring of the organization operational system. So when we see a transformational change, it means a radical changes that involve total restructuring. So let's say, for instance, that we acquire a company or we merge with a firm or we diversify into a new line of business. It will require a lot of transformational changes. Or the company adopts a new technology or we move into greenfield ventures, a business line that we started from the scratch. We don't have any idea before. So these are typical example of what we call transformational changes. Like the removal of fuel subsidy by the government is a transformational change. Because we have to start from a new normal life after removal of transformation. Uh, After the removal of the fuel subsidy, it affected a lot of things, the economy and some other things. So we have to restructuring, rebuild the economy. So transformational change require major or holistic changes. But when it comes to incremental changes, that one just require a minor changes. So we have to note here, before we leave all this preamble, that change is also either a one-off event so that the entity move on quickly from the old state of doing their business. One-off event. One-off events means that we change once we implement the change, it might take another month or years before new changes is implemented. And in some instances, depending on the mode of operation, the environmental challenges, the uncontrollable forces, reasons for the political forces, economic forces, sociocultural forces, technology, ecological, and legal, including competitors. Change might be a continuous process of development, which is very common. So, what are the triggers of change in an organization? You can see this in exam as triggers. They can call it triggers, or rather, they use that word drivers of changes. Triggers of change can be used, drivers of change can be used, antecedent of change can be used. So the triggers for change. So triggers for change are the reasons for making a change or the reason for the motivation to change. So we have to know that a trigger or driver for change might come from the outside of the organization or inside the organization. So that means the drivers or triggers of change can be internal or external. So let's look at the external triggers of change. So the external factors, triggers for change are the following. So external triggers for change are caused by changes in the environment, that is the perspective, the political environment, the economic environment, sociocultural environment, technology environment, environmental and legal environment. So they are uncontrollable forces that we need to adapt with. And these are the things that cause need for change within the organization. So all these forces are what I expatiate here. The political reason for change. This one can come as a result of unexpected political crisis. We can see what is happening globally in Israel, in North Korea, in Russia, in Africa, in Asia. There's a lot of political unrest, crisis, anxiety, wars here and there. All these things affect business, performance, and operation across the globe. And it affects the unilateral and bilateral relationship among nations. So which in turn affect socioeconomic dependency alliances and all the companies operating too within a nation or across boundaries, they are being affected. So the political factors affect company performance, economic viability, political viability, security, and many more. And as a result of this, it brings about the need for changes. At the same time, economic reason for change. So, under the economic reason for change, unexpected development in the economy of various countries might result in a change of strategy on foreign sales, expansion into foreign markets. And it's not limited to importation or exportation. The economic changes and all the indicators that we all know, like inflation, supply of money, interest rate, foreign exchange rate, the forces of demand and supply that we call invisible hands, unemployment rate, tax law, all these things affect corporate performance, government performance. It equally affects investors, including you and I, that we belong to either the consumers, customers, or household buyers, because it affects our purchasing power. It shape and influence our buying decisions. At the same time, we have the social and cultural reason for change. We have to monitor this as an organization and investors, as a businessman. Because of what? Because changing public attitude and opinions might persuade an entity to alter its strategy. Fantastic. Learn that the rich also cry. The economic is not buoyant. The standard of living is falling and the cost of living is high. So consumers are very rational in their spending. As a result of this, the company must be sensitive to the yearnings of the customers. This is not the time at which we use skimming price. We sell at high price. A lot of people are not interested in buying luxury products now. Their focus is to buy essential goods that can meet their expectations. So the lifestyle of the people, the culture, religion, their perceptions, their norms, group influence, family influence, societal value, these are the things that we consider under the social and cultural reason for change. And we even consider the, the quest for environmental sustainability and protection. So they are the guiding principles that bring about changes under the social and cultural reasons. In the technological reason for change, so this one comes as a result of persistent and daily increase, improvement in innovation. Technology is changing every seconds. In fact, in our own part of the globe where we find ourselves, so the level of technology development is at low ebb. This is attributed to lack of enabling environment, lack of government support, lack of government investment in science and technology, and many more. We are so deficient, and that's the reason why we relent on uh, imported technology. So we rely majorly on borrowed technology. But if the government can invest heavily in this area, then Nigeria can become an industrialized nation. And it will help all other companies too, individuals, to develop their business, to be more innovative. You can see how the Minister of Interior Decoration, to me, I give it to him kudos. He was able to revolutionize that portfolio with technology because it's versatile in technology. The banking industry, the insurance companies, and some other companies too, they are trying. And some even go in alliance with ICT firms so that they can be able to leverage on that alliance to improve in their areas of relative shortcomings. So any organization that does not invest in technology, any organization that does not keep himself abreast of changes in technology innovation, such companies cannot grow. That company is either remain static or leave the industry prematurely. So technology revolutionized business activities, and as a result of that, companies must adopt, innovate, and keep themselves abreast of changes in technology and innovation. So technology is one of the major factors that force organizations to implement new changes. And whatever technology we adopted now, we need constant updating. So ecological or environmental reason for change. Yes, this is one of the major reasons for change because of the global need for environmental sustainability goals, because of the need for the societal safety, because of the need for the consumer safety, because of the need to produce a wholesome product that is fit and hygienic. And under ecological and environmental reason, the government laws, agency laws, are part of the compelling thing that compel organization to implement changes. Like for instance now, environmental law, we have labor law, so lean manufacturing law, that is in the area of waste management and many more. So these are some of the factors that the company consider when implementing changes. Because failure to comply with all these laws will attract litigations and it will have adverse negative effects on the organization. So legal reasons for change. So the legal reasons for change comes as a result of changes in the government policy, changes in government laws, agency laws, constitutional provisions, welfare laws. So all these things require compliance. So due to the need for compliance, the company might need to make some adjustment to their policy in order to ensure strict adherence to the law and ethical standard. So these are some of the external factors for change. I think the only thing that we don't mention there is competitors. Competitors too are one of the external trigger of change. So when it's come to internal trigger for change, internal factors influencing organizational change, internal triggers for change. So change might be motivated or caused by which are the following. So these are the factors causing internal changes. One, change of senior management. We have the change of senior management. It can be as a result of transfer, retirement, resignation. Any factor can bring about it. It can be as a result of restructuring of portfolio. So anytime there's a new senior manager, there's a new senior manager, such as chief executive officer, managing director, this one bring about some changes. And you know that the new manager that comes in too might have one or two value to add. Another internal cause of change is acquisition and merger. When the company acquire a new firm, so automatically there's going to be some landmark positive changes. And this one in acquisition, some can even come in form of downsizing or downscoping, restructuring of portfolio, needs for training of the new staff that we acquire from the company that we acquire. So all those staffs, we have to train them, give them some induction training so that they can be familiar and be versatile with our mode of operation. share our company vision and missions. And the same thing occur when two companies, two entities merge to become one. So it always brings about the need for some changes in policy, mode of operations, and procedures. Internally, changes can come as a result of the mergers and divestment. The merger occur when two companies that operate together before as a result of merger now separate. They split into two separate entities. So this might be achieved via operation of law or by consensus of mind agreement voluntarily. So when these two companies they merge, they automatically there's going to be changes in their mode of operation because all the two companies now they now operate separately, and these are companies that have been operating for years through merger. So it needs a lot of restructuring, reorganizations, and the rest. And it can come as a result of divestment. I've informed you when we are treating BCG matrix, product life cycle, that divestment means reduction in the production of certain products, abandonment, withdrawal. So divestment is an exit strategy. It can even come in form of downscoping. We close the outlet and we sell the outlet outrightly. It's a divestment policy. So this policy of divestment is used when companies discover that the strategic business unit is becoming unproductive, or there's a certain product that is in beginning low returns that the company finds difficult to break even, or the product is bringing in negative cash flow. So we can divest such a product, having thoroughly considered all factors, and we give the product time to survive itself. So due to reorganization, downsizing, and rationalization, so companies too always find is that it is highly imperative for them to change when we are doing reorganization of the company, restructuring of the company, or we are doing downsizing, layoff of some staffs, maybe redundant staff, because downsizing must be done in accordance with law, and we must not do it to hurt a productive staff. So in rationalization too, rationalization is more or less a cost reduction so that we can be able to be rational. All ways where we have been wasting money, inefficient ways. So we have to ensure that all these areas are blocked. All the gray areas, we put in place necessary changes. So triggers of change are both internal and external. So how can we manage strategic change? So managing strategic change requires some guidelines. So guidelines for change management. So what we have to do is change levers and management skills. We have to invest in innovation technology. We have to empower our staff through capacity development. We can only develop their skills and potentials through training and manpower developmental programs. So this one will change their orientation and it will increase their willingness to accept new changes. So we have to know that when change is planned means the change is intentional, it is formal. So when change is planned, managing the change involves deciding how to get from where we are to where we want to be. So that means in a planned change, we have to be visionary. We already know the state of operation performance of the company. We want to improve it. So how can we achieve our future goals and objectives? How can we get to our destination? and achieve all our predetermined, lay down goals, and share others' expectations. So to do this, we have to ensure that the change process consists of planning. That should be proactive planning, tactical, operational, strategic planning have to be put in place. So all this planning and strategy must be effectively implemented. So once we implement them, we have to put in place a culture to nurture and maintain the change so that there is no going back to former ways and method of operation. So managing strategic change require operational planning, tactical planning, strategic planning, innovation, implementation of strategy, and it require nurturing of the changes, consistency, irrespective of the challenges that we face. So having looked at that, so what are the levers of change? The levers of change means the requirement for successful implementation of change. Those are the things that we call levers of change. So let's look at the levers of change. So the following requirements are needed for successful implementation of change. One, what is the first requirement? A clear understanding of the need for change and what will be the desired result of the change. So this one require a greater commitment, understanding of the change, and achieving positive results. This must be communicated to all the stakeholders and the shareholders. Two, there is effective communication with everyone affected by the change. Three, there should be two-way communication. So when we are implementing change, we have to ensure that we are not using a one-way communication that will not bring about feedback. For us to achieve positive results, we must ensure that we use two-way communication policy that will bring about opportunity for feedback, valuable contributions, and cohorts of change agents. So at the same time, we have to align the organization structure and relationship within the organization so that we can be able to adapt to the new changes. But it's something new that we are trying. So the organization structure must be integrated and should be both inter and intrapersonal relationship. That one will foster team unity, teamwork, building of succession plan. That is what the number 4 is telling us. To further achieve our implementation of change and positive results, the lever of change require that there should be reward system should be amended. Reward system. So with this, so that the rewards to managers and other employees are based on performance targets that are consistent with the requirements for new changes. And this has to be announced because that's the only way we can appeal to the workers too. That the acceptance of these new changes will not go unrewarded. That your commitment, your perseverance, your support during this time of new normal that we are implementing the new changes will be rewarded. And the company have to fulfill this promise because that's the only way you can increase the citizen behavior. The only way you can increase the perceived organizational trust. Because if you betray the trust and confidence of the worker once, it will create a lasting impression and the customers will not trust you. Same with the employees. Once they lost the trust in the management, it causes a lot of distrust, internal disequilibrium, and resistance to changes. So also, The critical success factor, CSF, and KPI, key performance indicator, should be revised. So again, I stress that the critical success factor and key performance indicators should be revised. We are revising that so that they are consistent with the requirement of the new change. So the CSF, critical success factor, key performance indicator, KPI, the vision of the company, the mission of the company policy, the procedures, strategies, everything must align with the new changes. They must agree. They must be in consonance. That's what we call strategic fit. So once we align all this, then we have to educate our staff on it, and we ensure periodic training. So what are the skills for managing change? So these are what the syllabus required. And it's necessary we know this. It's not for exam stake alone. This is empowerment. So skills for managing change. One of the skills required for managing change by organization is tuning in into the environment. So that was the word used by Roosevelt Moscanta. He said tuning in. Don't mind that word, is what you know. Tuning into the environment means environmental scanning, getting information about your business environment, because you must not pay a deaf ear to the environment. You must have an ear to the ground. So tuning into the environment means getting constant, valuable, timely information about activities occurring in the business environment. You know, the participants in the business environment are many. The customers are there, the consumers are there, the distributors are there, the investors are there, major dealers, our competitors, the government is there, the new entrants are there. So we have to tune in, keep our best of developments in the business environment. Because the business environment is dynamic, it is complex and turbulent. So whosoever that fail to analyze the environment where you are doing business, so that company cannot achieve any positive change. You cannot achieve any results. The company cannot achieve sustainable growth and enhance profitability. So that's what the tuning into the business environment means. And again, we can do challenging the prevailing organization wisdom. I would have loved to paraphrase this place and even remove that wisdom, but that's how the scholar put it. So what they are trying to say here is that challenging the prevailing organization wisdom means that we need to challenge ourselves, be a transformational leader and workers. So what is the meaning of that challenge? That challenge means that let's think inward. What are the areas that need restructuring? What are the areas of weaknesses that we need to strengthen? What should be our new aspirations? In what way can we become a technological innovation driving firms? How can we improve our competitive market positions and become a market leader or among the market leaders? So how can we add or increase the perceived value of our product and services to the customers? So what are the things that we can put in place to meet and surpass the shareholders' expectations? That means the company should challenge himself. We can form a committee on this, innovative committee, to look at other things that the company can do to add value. Can come in the area of new product development, total quality management, diversification of investment, even our present operational system. So how can we improve the efficiency and productivity of the staff so that our output increase, and at the same time we make robust profit. So communication and compelling is another thing that we can do. Communication. We communicate the need for change to our workers so that we can be able to have the same perceived vision and share our vision. Because one of the major things that is causing employees resistance to changes is lack of communication from the onset of the change. When the change is just something that is sudden, they don't have a proud knowledge about it, that has caused a lot of crisis. So at the same time, we can do building a coalition. So building a coalition requires, you can see, managers cannot make change happen through personal effort alone. No, it's not possible. One manager or a single department cannot single-handedly implement a new changes and achieve the broad objective of the company. It's not possible. So we have to build a coalition. So that means they need to win the support and cooperation of all individuals. Shareholders must be involved. The board of trustees must be involved. All the functional managers, line managers, the support staff, all of them must be involved. In fact, depending on the nature of changes, some require the support of the customers and the vendors. We have to build a coalition. In fact, some companies build coalition with private investors. External consultants might be involved. So once we do this, we can be able to implement new changes. So we quickly move to Lewin force feed analysis. Lewin force feed analysis. By that Lewin force feed analysis, what the Lewin is trying to say here is that for companies or individual to be able to implement new change or changes, there are two forces that you must consider. And that forces, one is called a driving force, the other one is called a restraining force. That it is always good for us to have a driving force. So that one will enable us to be able to achieve our intended changes and results. So let's look at it. Lemming force feed analysis. So Kurt Lemmings stated that there are two opposing forces that affect implementation of changes. So the two opposing forces that he stressed are this. One, the driving force. The driving forces. So the driving forces, they are the forces that support the need for change. Not to waste time on it, let's cite example immediately. Driving forces, e.g., the employees' acceptance, top management support, shareholders' acceptability and support, investor support, enabling environment, favorable government policy. All these things are what we call driving forces. The financial strength, acquisition and adoption of innovations, they are driving forces. But opposite this is restraining forces that oppose and resist the implementation of changes. So the restraining forces might be resistance from the employees, lack of acceptance by the shareholders or board of directors, unfavorable government policy, or government restriction at the point of implementation, competitors' action and reactions, poor economic conditions. All these things are what we call restraining forces. Or at the point of implementation of the changes, due to this present hyperinflation, so we are financially handicapped. Due to that, we cannot implement it now. So for change to be implemented and positive results to be achieved, Lewin stated that the driving forces must be greater than the restraining forces. The driving forces must be greater than what? The restraining forces. So in our say here that change will not occur if the forces restraining the changes are stronger than the driving forces for the change. So that means if the restraining forces are greater than the driving forces, changes cannot be implemented. So for us to implement new changes, achieve results, then we have to ensure that there's an enabling environment and the driving forces should be greater than the resisting forces. So at the same time, Lewin discussed about three changes or process of implementing change in an organization. That's what we call the Lewin on freaks, change, and refreaks. So Lewin says that Lewin also suggested an approach to introducing planned transformational change. Introducing planned, that is formal, proactive, intentional, major changes. That's what it means. Planned transformational change, which is sometimes called prescriptive planned change theory. So the scholar was of the view, he suggested that a planned process for change should begin with identifying the cause of the problem, that is problem recognition, and the reason why change is needed, change objective, and identify the opportunity of making improvement through transformational change. So what are the opportunities that we can exploit for us to be able to implement these new changes? So the learning change process then need to go three stages. These three stages are on freaks, movement, and refreaks. Not minding the name, they are very simple thing. So what we mean by on freaks, I've penciled it for you so that we can pick the points we will not forget. On freaks means the process of unfreaking is persuading the employees. On freaks means persuade your employees. Because we cannot just wake up tomorrow morning when other workers resume and we now send a memo and the company has implemented these changes. No. So it should be something that will involve the employees through formal or informal meeting. Or we can hold a meeting with some of the key stakeholders at all levels in the organization. So they disseminate this information to the workers for us to know their reactions. And that's the essence of using grapevine at times. So unfixing means persuade the employees, tell them the problem that we have identified, tell them the state the company is presently, let them know the reason why there is need for this change, be it internal need or external need. Let them realize that their support is key to achieving the implementation of these changes, and their support will not go unrewarded. Depending on the nature of the changes of policy we are making, we can guarantee them that these changes will not stress their job. So we appeal to them. Once we appeal to them like this, then we can be able to see their reactions. We anticipate, we ask questions from them. It should be an interactive thing and not just one-way communication. So this one will enable us to get their acceptance. Because without the acceptance, it will be difficult to implement the changes. And we might not be able to get the acceptance immediately. It might be something that they said, okay, they will get back to the management through the HR or through the trade union or representative of the workers. So unfixing through persuasion of the customers is key. And the essence of this unfreezing, I've told you, is just to get the acceptability and be able to change the current situation that the company is facing. Might be experiencing declining profitability, loss of major markets to some of our competitors. Maybe it is possible in the geographical location where we are earning most of our returns in Nigeria, the crisis of insecurity affect us. So all the problem must be communicated. We persuade and plead for their acceptance. That is the meaning of on freaks. So the movement. What do we mean by movement? According to Lewin. Lewin says that once the management have been able to persuade the employees, and the employees are giving them full acceptability and support. So immediately, we must ensure movement. Movement means the implementation of the changes. Implementation of the changes. That's what we call movement. And while we are implementing the changes, we must ensure we have sufficient resources. We must ensure we form a formidable change management committee. We must ensure that the top management are actively involved. We must build team unity, synergy here. And we have to ensure that we don't lose sight, focus on all our driving forces. Whatever challenges or restraining forces that we see, we must put in place strategy to overcome them. That is what we call movement. And I say once we have been able to implement the changes, then we must guide against the incidence of what we call refreaks. So refreaks by Lewin means that there is tendency that after the implementation of the new policy, you might have some staff that don't key in, buy the ideas, that they might want to go back to the old way of doing things, that we must guide against this. So let's look at how Lewin put it. Reflex. Let me argue that even if change is implemented, there's a risk that before long, employees will go back to their old ways of doing things, and the benefit of the change might be lost. That means change is irreversible. So the positive changes that we have implemented, we have to ensure that we abide by it, and all our employees share the same visions and goal. And for the employees not to go back, there is need for further reorientation. They must share the cultural web, the same philosophy, culture, and perception of the company. So, what are those people that we call change agents? The change agents, they are individual or group of individuals that play pivotal role in the implementation of new changes with achievement of success or positive results. So the change agent is not necessarily only among the top management, the strategic keepers. No, we have change agents across all levels in the organization. It might be among the primary stakeholders, secondary stakeholders, legitimate stakeholders, among the shareholders, the board of directors, functional managers, supervisors, line managers, the lower level managers, the trade union, workers union. That's what we call change agents. Those people that are instrumental, that serve as a driving force, that can assist us to persuade other workers to implement changes. So this area too, the HR, human resource units or managers, they are regarded as exchange agents. So, what are the skills that a exchange agent must have? The individual exchange agent must have certain skills. What are those skills? One, he must explain the reason for the change. You must have that ability to present, to unfreeze, to persuade the employees, to give them valuable information, the vision that the company wants to sell. So this one will help us to increase the driving force and employee susceptibility. And whatever the rumor they have been hearing that you are going to lose your job if the change is implemented, this will occur, they will downsize, they will reduce your salary. There are a lot of new machine that is coming to replace your human effort. All these things, by the time we use exchange again that is able to explain all this for them, then automatically it will erase or reduce the tension, anxiety, and negative impression they have about the changes, so that we will not be able to face any form of restraint or resistance. At the same time, the change agent, let's look at this. As far as possible, that is change agent, should involve the individuals affected and get them to participate in making the changes. All the individuals that will be affected with the new policy, we bring it together. Let them realize we must do this together. In unity, we stand. You are not losing your job. And that's the reason why we want to co-opt you. Participate means co-opt, to involve them in the change process. This one will reduce the level of resistance. And at the same time, prior to the implementation of the sending us, that it should maintain communication with the employees at all time, prior to the implementation, during the implementation, post-implementation of the new changes, evaluation of the new changes. There should be constant communication. It is key for gaining acceptance and removing resistance. Also, let's look at one more. Where appropriate, it should provide training to the employees affected so that they can be able to key in and fit in with the new changes. And at the same time, I've informed you that a change agent might even be an external body. A consultant is often used as a change agent. Might be private institution too. So the reason why we are using a consultant to persuade the employees and to act as a change agent is because an outsider consultant, external consultant, is perceived to be independent and fair. And this one is very, very common when the employee do not have trust in the organization or in some of the key stakeholders. Two, the consultant will have experience in managing the change process because that's what they do for a living. At the same time, the consultant will have experience of many organizations that have implemented the changes or something similar and should be able to advise on the changes that are desirable. So, another important thing, in fact, this particular subtopic comes out regularly. It's not much. At times, ICAN can attach 5 marks to it. 5 marks, 7 marks. Because you don't need much to write here. But I don't know the reason why they love it so much, particularly when we are seeing that era of CSME. After 1 or 2 diets, you see Gemini 4 hours of change management comes out. So, what do we call the Gemini 4 hours of change? Another model for introducing transformational change was promoted by Gemini consultants, and this is known as 4 hours model. So the elements of the model are as follows. What are the elements of the 4Rs? One, reframe. Reframe means that the company must create the desire for change. The company must create a vision of what the entity is trying to achieve. And at the same time, we have to create a measurement system to set targets for change and measure performance. That means once we implement the change, we have to evaluate it. What is the result? What is the outcome? We can use key performance indicators, maybe market share, profitability, return on capital employed, gap analysis. That is what it means. So reframe means creating desire for change. But when it's come to restructure means examine the organization structure and create an economic model showing how value is created by the entity. So in restructure, we have to look at our organization structure, form a change committee, examine our resources. Do we have the adequate resources to implement these changes and achieve results? So we have to look at our manpower, machine, methodology, money, information, technology, time, operational system. That is what we call restructuring. Revitalize. Under the revitalize, this is this is the entity commitment to the future. So by that revitalize, it means bringing in innovative ideas, new product development. So let's look at the revitalize together. Revitalize. This is the entity's commitment to the future. So revitalize means find new products and new markets that fit well with the entity's environment. Invent new business. Change the rules of the competition by making use of new technology. So adoption of new technology, new operational system, new innovation, development of new products, all these things are what we call revitalization. So why the last one in the Gemini 4R? The last R means renew. The renew means develop individuals within the organization, renew their skills, their knowledge through training, motivation, compensation, and reward system. So once you can be able to do this, it will be more easier for the company to implement these changes without having much resistance or restraining forces. So having looked at that, we quickly look at PIMS analysis. Ideally, I've removed PIMS out of what I'm going to lecture this guys because it is not part of the new syllabus. Under method of development, PIMS has been removed outrightly. But it is amazing and surprising that when ICAN released their study pack, majority of the things that have been removed, their study pack did not align with the new syllabus. This PIMS that was removed in the syllabus was included again in the study pack. So this caused a lot of mixed reactions. But because your sources matter most, so and that's the reason why I find it highly important for me that since I see it in the new study pack, let's refresh our memory on it. Because it might not be there for us to defend ourselves. What if they pick interest and put PIMS in the coming exam? 2 marks is enough to pass this exam. So, under the method of development, PIMS was introduced into the study pack. So, we are going to write a position letter to ICAN on that to inform them all these convictions caused by the study pack and this new syllabus. What do we call PIMS? PIMS is an abbreviation. PIMS is an abbreviation. And what does it mean? PIMS analysis stands for profit impact of marketing strategy. P for profit, I for impact, M for marketing, S for strategy. So PIMS means profit impact of marketing strategies. So these PIMS that you are seeing, it is used by companies for them to evaluate the effectiveness of the marketing strategy that they adopted, effectiveness of innovative strategy that they adopted. So with the use of PIMS analysis, company can be able to determine if the implemented strategy is functional and effective or not. And equally, PIMS analysis help us to generate data. PIMS. The PIMS data that we generated can be used to analyze the contribution of the strategic business unit, SBUs, our branches, outlets, regional sales outlets. So we can be able to know what are their contributions to the broad growth of the company and achievement of results. So with PIMS analysis, the company can be able to know the contribution of the brand managers, supervisors, the entire employees, and most especially the strategic units. So once we get the data that we derive from the PIMS analysis can be used, for example, to relate the success of a strategic business unit to factors such as market share. That means the strategy that we implemented, did the strategy increase our market share, profitability, sales volume, return on investment? The data that we collected and we implemented, is it useful on diversification strategy? And what benefit do we derive from that? So with PIMS analysis, company can be able to analyze whatever marketing strategy they put in place. So I don't want to limit you or narrow your mind on any specific strategy, but you should know that the strategy of a company varies. It can be internal strategy, it can be advertisement, it can be sales promotion, it can be customer relationship management. Any strategy that we implemented or adopted, it can be innovation or technology, development of new products, or we decided to be buying in bulk and keep inventory of materials so that we can reduce our cost of buying raw materials. So what effect does this strategy have on the company profitability? That is what PIM stands for. So I will not waste much time on this. So again, product-based and resource-based strategy. Let's look at it because this one too was previously omitted, but I can reintroduce it in the study part. Product-based and resource-based strategy. Very simple. You see, what we call product-based and resource-based strategy is just to orientate you and I. And what orientation are we giving ourselves here? You see, this color that you are seeing here, Amel and Prahlad, do more justice to the debate on whether we should focus on product-based strategy or our focus should be on resource-based strategy. Okay, let me explain it to you. With a product-based strategy, a firm should identify the products that you want to sell at the market or market segment in which you should sell them, which is fine. But the disadvantage of the product-based strategy is this. The focus of attention is on which products are likely to be most successful in the market. So most companies or individuals that use product-based strategy, they spend a lot of resources, time in finding the best product that they can produce in the market. It is always good at times when you have the luxury of times and the resources and you want to produce a differentiated product, for instance, it's fine. But when the company is now using a whole year, 2 years, 3 years, searching for the best product to produce, no matter how best your product, within a time lapse, I can guarantee you that other competitors will produce either similar or another product that is more than that. And that's the more reason why you discover that in the mobile phone industry, all companies operating there, including Samsung, Infinix, and what have you, they shorten the lifespan of their product because they know that product, new phone will soon be launched in the next 4 weeks or 5 weeks. So pursuing a product-based strategy is not the best for a company at all time. Despite the fact that we advise companies to be innovative, produce a new product. So Amel and Pra now suggested that rather than pursuing a product-based strategy, companies should focus on how they can use their internal resources to achieve whatever strategic intention they have in mind, whether to produce a new product, to differentiate a product, to produce an innovative product, to adopt technology, to develop a differentiated product, to satisfy customers, to achieve increasing competitive position, increasing returns. So the scholar says, rather than product-based, resource-based strategy will give you all this. Look at this. Ahmed and Prahalad suggested that instead of a product-based strategy approach, entities should use a resource-based approach. Why? Because instead of looking for the most profitable products, an entity look instead at the strength and competency in its internal resources. In fact, there is a theory on this. Because there are theories, resource-based view theory. So the summary of this one is that the company should look inward. Of all the limited resources that we have at our disposal, how can we use these resources effectively in conjunction with our competency, capability, core competency, and the technology that we have acquired to produce products and achieve results. So, in summary, resource-based strategy has short, medium, and long-run benefits than product-based strategy. That with your resource, there is nothing you cannot achieve as an organization. So, in furtherance to that, there are 4 key areas for successful strategic development when you want to use your resources to achieve strategic development. There are 4 key areas that you have to note. The 4 key areas are: one, product market scope. Product market scope. We call that one strategic scope. Why do we call it product market scope? We call it because the entity should make clear the product market areas in which you want to operate. We have to know product market area that we want to operate. Like for instance, is it the food and beverages, manufacturing industry, consumable products, fast moving consumer goods? So we have to identify that. Having identified that, we have to look at the competitive advantage. Competitive advantage. Competitive advantage. We have to look at it. So by that competitive advantage, we should be able to know who are the competitors operating in the industry presently. What are the markets they serve? What brands are they selling in the industry? What is their brand equity? So how can we compete with these competitors? So because without looking at the competitive advantage, it will amount to wasted efforts. Analysis of the competitors that market portals inform us is very, very, very essential for company to be more proactive. Because without looking at what the competitors are doing, then our company cannot achieve any result. So we have to look at the competitive advantage that we desire to gain. And in this competitive advantage too, we have to ensure that we monitor the competitive market position. That is what will create a drive for us. In the competitive industry, I don't know if I have informed you that we have four major competitive market position. That is market leader position, market challengers position, market followers position, and market niche position. We must be able to maintain this position. The market leader is occupied by the most competitive and leader in the industry that have the large number of customers, the highest profitability, and command major markets. They have dominance. When we are talking of the likes of Dangote in the industry where they are operating, Unilever in the industry where they are operating, in the telecommunication industry, we are talking of MTN. In the banking industry, we are mention of the likes of Access Bank and some other banks. So how can we compete with these people and achieve results? Because the analysis of the competitors will give us opportunity to be more productive and innovative. At the same time, in using the resource-based view for strategic development, we must look at the growth vectors. The growth vectors means the operational directions we want to operate. How can we penetrate a new market? What are the new existing markets that we can operate? Or can we create a new market, new users for our products? That is what we call growth vectors. And above all, there must be synergy. So the company must synergize. An entity should also indicate how it might expect to benefit from synergy by moving into new product market areas. With synergy, there's absolutely nothing we cannot achieve. For you to understand the meaning of synergy, look at these examples that I put here. Example of synergy. So instead of making just one product, making two different products with the same equipment and getting better utilization of the equipment is a good synergy. And that's what we call economic of scope. When we are using one machine to produce two products. Look at another example of synergy. Selling two products with the same sales force. We use the same sales force to sell two products that our company produce. It's a good synergy too, instead of just selling one product. So the synergy will provide extra benefits for us, and it will even help us to integrate functional activities, build team unity, empower our staffs, and achieve profitability. So that is what we call the product-based strategy, resource-based strategy, and how we can achieve results through synergy and some other strategies. So diversification and integration. Diversification and integration. We have discussed about diversification. We have mentioned it severally. And when we are discussing on answer growth matrix, internal development strategy, that we have market penetration strategy, market development strategy, product development strategy, and diversification. You can recall that we discussed on diversification too. And I inform you that the diversification, we have various types of diversification. We have concentric diversification, we have conglomerate diversification, And at the same time, we have hybrid diversification. I mean, those companies that use both concentric and conglomerate, they diversify into both related and unrelated. We call them hybrid firm. But in this area now, so the aspect at which we are discussing is we want to discuss on the areas of integration. We want to discuss on areas of integration. And our focus will now be on what we call integration. Just few things that the syllabus require here. It's not much. Integration. Integration is a time that means when you say integration, we are expanding our portfolio of business. We are expanding our scope of operation. We are expanding our geographical sales territory. We are expanding our product line. We are now producing new varieties of products. All these things are still integration. And by integration too, the company is either merging or acquiring or striving to have a dominance in the business industry. So again, integration is a term that means extending a business. So there are two main types of integrations. We have horizontal integration and vertical integration. I've informed you that are very simple. You can see that I don't even make a lengthy note, just for you to know the meaning. Because in case we have a case scenario question, when they now say the company adopt horizontal integration, you'll be able to know the meaning. So with horizontal integration, an entity extends its business by obtaining a larger share of existing product markets. Doesn't end there. Typically, an entity might acquire one or more of its competitors. That is the meaning of horizontal integration. It occurs when a company acquire, they take over some of their competitors that formerly they are operating in the same industry. Within seconds, let's think of example like acquisition of She, the company that produced Chivita by Coca-Cola. That is horizontal integration. The acquisition of uh, this company that produced Limca by Coke is what we call horizontal integration. Is that understood? So we have vertical integration. So when we call vertical integration, so by that vertical integration, so with vertical integration, an entity extends its business by either acquiring or merging with another entity at different stage in the supply chain. So a vertical integration strategy is usually a form of concentric diversification. Why do we call it a concentric diversification? Because the line of integration that we did is related to our previous line of business. We don't move into unrelated that we call conglomerate diversification. So apart from horizontal integration, vertical integration, we have another one that we call forward and backward integration. But please, under the forward and backward integration here, we are not talking about the forward and backward integration that Michael Porter discussed on under the generic strategy. You know, in the generic strategy, there was one strategy that we discussed there. That strategy is cost leadership strategy. That Porter is advising that any company that wants to use the cost leadership strategy, the company should embark on backward and forward integration. So the forward and backward integration here, what do we call forward integration? The forward integration is also called downstream integration that occur when a company enter the product market of its customer. That is all. We have customer that is supplying us certain raw materials, product and what have you that we use to produce our own final product. But this time around, the company have make a decision that we are no longer buying that product again, or we want to be selling directly to the final consumers. So that is forward integration. Look at it again. Forward vertical integration is also called downstream integration, that occur when an entity company enter the product market of its customers. Okay, let's look at the example for better understanding. For example, a manufacturer of tires might go into the production of motor cars or motorcycle, can you see, before they supply these tires to companies in the automobile industries, the likes of Tesla and the rest. But now the company now diversify into production of motorcycle by himself. So we have a situation whereby our company, we don't sell directly to our final consumers. We sell through the marketing intermediaries, the wholesalers, retailers, other getters, other jobbers, and some other forms of retailers. But the company now changed its policy that now we want to be selling directly to the final consumers. We have entered the business area of our customer because we said to them they are the intermediary, the link between the company and the final consumers. So that's what we call forward vertical integration. But opposite that is what we call backward vertical integration. With backward vertical integration, that one is also called upstream integration, that occur when a company enter the product market of its suppliers. Product market of its suppliers. Let's say, for instance, now the likes of Coca-Cola, 7-Up bottling companies, and some other companies that operate in the food and beverages industry. They normally buy their packaging, all this empty plastic and cork, from suppliers. The supplier that supply them, they only fill the liquid, print the label, cork it, and push it to the market for sale. But now, the company policy changed due to changes, restructuring. We now decided that henceforth, going forward, we have acquired machines. We have trained a lot of staff internally, that we are no longer buying any container outside, that the company will be producing it internally. That means we have shut the door from our suppliers. Nobody is supplying us the product again. We are producing it internally. That's what we call backward vertical integration. And it's a cost reduction method, and it enhances the company profitability. Okay, also we have forecasting. Forecasting. So in forecasting here, we are required to know the definition of forecasting and two major types of forecasting that we have. So what do we call forecasting? Any simple definition of your choice can be given. Forecast means to assumption, prediction. That two words can be used to define forecasting. So to me, forecasting is a qualitative and quantitative method of predicting future events and outcome. So forecasting is a qualitative and quantitative method that we use to predict future sales of a certain product. And this forecasting that you are seeing, there are two major methods of forecasting. The first one, we have quantitative forecasting, and the second one is qualitative forecasting. That quantitative, that one require the use of statistical and mathematical tools or techniques to forecast. But the one that we call qualitative forecasting, it does not require the use of statistics the mathematical formula, view analysis, time series, it doesn't require. So once we know that forecasting means the prediction of future events, future sales, and results, that's forecasting. So we can use both qualitative and quantitative. And the very reason why I use the two to define it, that forecasting means the qualitative and quantitative method of predicting future sales, returns, and profitability. So we have two methods. The first one is quantitative forecasting. So the quantitative forecasting are forecasts that predict future outcomes in numeric terms. You can see in numeric terms. For example, sales revenue using mathematical or statistical techniques. So example of the mathematical or statistical techniques that we can use are historical data, such as previous sales or production figure, as basis for making forecasts. So other statistical tools that we can use to make quantitative forecasts are trend analysis, time series analysis, even including all these meme media. We can make a chart, system modeling, exponential growth model, SPSS can be used, view, regression analysis. But on the other hand, qualitative forecasting, this one does not require the use of statistical models and mathematics. Rather, the qualitative methods are based on the experience or judgment of forecasters. And who are those people that we call forecasters? Examples are the use of Delphi method, external consultants, contribution from our salesmen, because they are the one in the field, they are the ones selling. We can ask them, like, how many quantity of this product or parts can you sell in your sales territory between this month and December? Salesman's opinion, expert opinion, that is production manager, sales manager, marketing manager, the distributors, wholesalers, or consumer panel, jury of consumer panel. We can do it. We hold a meeting with them, our major consumers or dealers. They can give us estimates of the likely quantity they can buy within so time. We can use that one to forecast to know our production plans. So another thing is assessment of business strategy. All these business strategy that we have been mentioning, maybe promotional strategy, advertising strategy, cost leadership strategy, diversification strategy, no freak strategy, all the strategy, even up to price reduction. Price reduction is a strategy too. What are the basis for assessing this strategy before we use it? So the basis of assessing strategy. So the assessment of business strategy. So the basis for assessing business strategy suitability of assessing strategy are the following. One, suitability. We have to look at is the strategy suitable with the company mode of operation? Is the strategy aligned with the company vision and mission statement? What value is the strategy going to give us? What is going to be the profit impact of the strategy? We have to look at the suitability of the strategy. So the suitability with our product range, the product life cycle, we must look at it. The assessment of business strategy too must consider the suitability of the resources and competency. Because if we formulate a strategy that we don't have the resources and competency to achieve, then automatically we have created internal tension. It will just amount to wastages of resources, time, and effort. And this one will not go well with all the investors, particularly the shareholders. The board of directors might be fired. So we have to examine the suitability of the strategy in terms of the feasibility, And the key to this feasibility is this strategy. At the same time, we must consider the acceptability of a strategy. Any strategy that is not accepted by the board of directors, the shareholders, and investors should not be implemented, should be rejected outrightly, so that we will not commit what we call a go error, acceptance or adoption of a strategy that's supposed to be rejected. A suitable strategy must be what? Accepted. If it is not accepted, it should be rejected. We look for another alternative strategy. And at the same time, another important thing is strategic fit. Anywhere you see strategic fit, or they tell you, discuss on strategic fit. So the strategy must fit and align with the company resources, competency, core competency, vision, and mission. And it must fit with the shareholders' expectation. But that's what can make a strategy to be rejected. Because if the strategy does not align with the shareholders' expectation, then automatically the strategy will be discarded. So we must ensure that any strategy that we want to implement, we must guarantee the fitness of that strategy in terms of suitability, acceptability, feasibility of the strategy, and above all, acceptance of the strategy and alignment with the company vision and mission statement, including operational system. If that is understood, that suitability that we mentioned, look at it. The statement we should ask is that suitability. Does the strategy address the strategic requirements given the circumstances and the situation? The strategic requirement of the company, maybe to enhance sales, market share, profitability, return on investment, return on capital employed, improve our competitive strength, whatever strategic intention, will that strategy solve that problem? Two, acceptability. Does the strategy address the strategic requirements in a way that will be acceptable to significant stakeholders? All our stakeholders, shareholders, board of directors. The strategy will be accepted. Feasibility. Is it practical? Is it easy to implement it? Apart from this paperwork, is it practical? Included within an assessment of acceptability or feasibility should be a what? Financial analysis. That is key.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. I can't see your screen. I don't know if it's from my hand only.
I've reshared the screen. The network blink. I immediately reshare the screen. I reshare
Okay.
it, man.
I think I
Let
should
me.
log out and come in again.
It's not
You
showing.
can
No,
check
no, it's
now.
not showing.
What of now?
It's not showing.
It's
It's
just
not
loading.
showing. It's just loading. Okay. Thank you.
Since
If you don't let me know. So it's the network. So we proceed by looking at ethical stance. Having looked at the cogent and critical questions that we must ask about the strategy before we implement it or adopt it. Suitability of the strategy, the feasibility of the strategy, acceptability of the strategy, profitability of the strategy, and strategic fit or alignment. So once that one has been done, and we have reviewed, and the board of directors and the stakeholders accepted, then the strategy can be implemented. So the next thing that we quickly look at is ethical influences and the area of CSR. We have done CSR, ethical influences in particularly. The first thing that we need to mention is business ethics. Business ethics. So what do we call business ethics? So business ethics focus on the fact that companies should comply with the laws. Many companies go further and say that they act in an ethical way, whereas they don't. Majority of them embark on greenwashing, brandwashing. What did I call greenwashing? Greenwashing occurs when a company make fallacious mental protection, whereas it's a lie. Some of them, they don't make what we call full corporate disclosure. They produce a product, they will tell you that that product is a sugar free, whereas it contains a lot of sugar. So in greenwashing, you see a company telling you that their product is wholesome, is produced in an organic way, and they consider the environmental sustainability laws, whereas they don't. That is greenwashing when you lie. But when we are talking of brand washing, that one occur when the company did not make any positive social footprint or contribution to economic sustainability, and they don't pronounce it. They just keep quiet. So we must ensure that the business ethics require compliance to law, regulations, code of corporate governance, agency laws. So with business ethics, we must act on the moral grant, ethical grant, compliance to law, and societal norms. Company must not engage in any activities that will cause reputational damage or crisis for them. So you must put in place a standard accounting reporting style, corporate disclosure, engagement of the shareholders, abide by the laws, pay taxes as at when due, fair dealings with customers and our employees. That is what we call business ethics. So, and all these business ethics are put it here. What are the business ethics? Acting within the law. That is one. Two, fair and honest dealings with suppliers, customers, including our shareholders. So, acting fairly towards the employees, showing respect for human rights. All these things are what we call ethical issues. So, under this topic, there are ranges of different ethical stances that a company might take, but it is useful to group them into four broad positions on a scale from position 1 to position 4. And this one is very key. But there's a lot of arguments on this, whereby we see some school of thought that is saying that the focus of the board of directors is just mainly to satisfy the needs and wants of the shareholders, or because they own the company. Okay, what of those people that are working, achieving the goals for you? So in the ethical stance, we have four ethical stance. The first one is that the company take the view that it is only interest should be the short-term interest of the shareholders. Therefore, business decisions should be taken with satisfying shareholders' interest as the only objective. So in this ethical stand, so what this ethical stand is saying is that we must only give priority to the interests of the shareholders alone. There's some school of thought that still believe in that up to now, because they believe that the shareholders are the investors. They are the one that owns, finance, and manage the company. So whatever that comes in terms of returns, after payment of overhead expenses and some other thing, should be solely for the shareholders. That they must continue to proactively accumulate the wealth of the shareholders. But let's look at the position 2. The position 2 says that the company said the view that the interests of its stakeholders are the most important concern. The interest of the shareholders, position 2. Let me take that again. The company takes the view that the interests of its shareholders are the most important concern. But in the long time, the company will benefit by showing some concern for the interests of the employees, communities, and the public. So in position 2, they still share the same perception with position 1. They share the same perception. And what is that perception? They are saying that priority should be given to the shareholders alone. But then I say, eh, at the long run, we can make some consideration to the. I mean, the employee's priority is not primary here too. In position 3, the company recognize an obligation not only to the shareholders but to other stakeholders group. This is a very lovely, fantastic ethical stand, and this is what I expect you and I to adopt and recommend to our company. We should balance the paradox that should be both concern for the shareholders and concern for the employees, because without the employees, nothing can be achieved. You can recall that beautiful definition of management. That same management is the art of getting things done through people. So as a result of that, that people is the employees. We must satisfy the employees. We must satisfy the shareholders. In the fourth ethical position, what does it say? The company has an ethical obligation towards the society and should be a shaper of the society. So that what that number 4 is saying is that the company have obligation and responsibility to the society. You must give back to the society because of, so you must give back to the society through environmental support, security support, job creation, and some other means via our CSR. So what are the consequences of unethical behavior? Consequences of unethical behavior. So anytime we act unethically, it will cause reputational risks for us. When we conduct unethical behavior, it will weaken the company goodwill. It will affect our competitiveness. It will lead to loss of customers, loss of investors, loss of staff, and it can attract litigation from the government, from the society, from investors, and the rest. And this one can lead to the collapse of the organization. So we must avoid anything that we call unethical behavior. Okay, let's quickly push it. Uh, the strategic selection means a formal selection that we embark on critical evaluation of the strategy before we implement it. And that strategic selection require the basic ingredients of strategy must be evaluated. That means suitability of the strategy that we discussed, feasibility of the strategy, acceptability of the strategy, and strategic fit. Enforced strategy. What do we call enforced strategy? Enforced strategy are the strategy that company implemented out of no choice. You don't have any choice than to implement it. E.g., during turbulent period, we engage on downsizing is an enforced strategy. Okay, so we quickly look at organization structure under strategic implementation. Organization structure. You know, the organization structure is undertaken by a company for them to have a free flow of information, hierarchy of authority, organizational chart, and to integrate all their functional departments together towards achieving goals. This organization structure that we are talking about, there are so many factors that a company consider before adopting certain organization structure. So among these factors to be considered are the age and size of the organization. You know, I put it as factor to be considered. It is possible in exam, they might ask you, what are the major determinants of organization structure? Determinants. Or what are the factors influencing the choice of organization structure? So the factors that determine it or that influence it are age of the organization, size of the organization, the nature of operation or business of the company, rate of expansion or growth. So these are many more are some of the factors on organization structure. So we have various types of organization structure, but within limits of the syllabus, we have to discuss on entrepreneurial structure, functional structure, divisional structure, and matrix structure. The first one, entrepreneurial structure. So the entrepreneurial organization structure is an entity that is managed by entrepreneurial owner. That is the owner of the business. Under the greenhouse growth model, we have mention of this entrepreneurial structure in the greenhouse growth model. You see, the entrepreneurial structure is a structure that is used by a infant company, a newly established company that commenced operation not quite long, or at times some emerging companies. They use the entrepreneurial structure. And I've justified that in this note, that an entrepreneurial structure is appropriate when an entity is in the early phase of its life. So as the company grow larger, they can now adopt another forms of structure. So you must know that the main features of the entrepreneurial structure, let me quickly summarize that because of time. The main features of an entrepreneurial structure is that the entrepreneur take all major decisions. Yes, it is very common. That is the practice. When a company starts newly, the decisions are centralized. That centralized decisions are taken by the owner of the company. It might be one person, if it's partnership, two or three or more than. So decisions are taken. So there is an autonomy of decision by the owners, and there is rare delegation of responsibility. In entrepreneurial structure too, the number of staff that the company have, because they are still at infancy, is small. So the company use what we call umbrella structure. Umbrella structure because all major strategic decision, use of resources revolve around the owner. So the formal organization structure, this is next after entrepreneurial. A formal structure is usually the next stage in the development of the organization structure of a growing entity. Because in a functional organization structure, decision-making authority is delegated in a formal arrangement. Now, we can now delegate responsibility, but we are now having more units, more departments, and the rest. So, as various units now, we delegate responsibility tasks, and those people that we assign the tasks to, they are held accountable. So, the decisions or the tasks that we are delegating mostly be in the areas of specialization or units where the staff is. For instance, when you look at this diagram here now, we have a functional structure from the board of directors to the managing directors. From that managing directors now, tasks are now delegated to functional. You can see their functional area: accounting and finance manager, marketing and sales, research and development, human resources management. If we have purchasing units, that's procurement units, store manager, functional areas of business. So this one will make them to be more effective and accountable in their various units because we have empowered them. However, in matrix structure, the matrix structure is used by large firms, multinational companies, conglomerate organizations that operate across boundaries. Even some that use matrix structure, they don't operate across branches, they limit themselves to national operation. You will discover that they have multiple branches throughout the whole state or nation. So this one will give them opportunity to exploit all business that is available. So it gives them opportunity for them to capture all marketing opportunities, irrespective of the location where their customers are. So this matrix structure will give the company global or national presence, because they must have one outlet, regional sales outlets, or dealers, what have you there. So with this matrix structure, it will give us opportunity to link the head office of the company with all other major branches that they have within and outside the country. And to do this, there is high degree of networking needed. We need networking, we need innovation, we need technological advancement to achieve this. So this structure is the most common among multinational companies like Unilever, UAC, Nestle PSC, Flour Mills, Dangote, and the rest. So that is the structure that Dangote is using now, presently, even for its refinery business. So span of control. What do we call span of control? Simple definition. Span of control means the number of workers that a supervisor or manager should supervise effectively. In the past decades, subject the supervisors, the managers to undue pressure, and this one affect their results. It affects their productivity and output level, all because the number of subordinates that is assigned to the workers, the number of subordinates that is assigned to the managers or supervisors are too much. So to overcome this problem, scholars have now come with the ideas that there are two types of span of control that companies should adopt. That is after a series of arguments that some are saying that the minimum number of employees that a manager or supervisor should supervise should be 10. Some are saying 15. Some are saying 20. Some are saying 5. So we have a scholar that come with two types of span of control. The two types of span of control that we have is tall, narrow. You can see it is tall and at the same time narrow. Anywhere you see tall, narrow, you don't even need to read further. That means the number of employees that should be assigned to the supervisor should be small. That's the reason why they call it tall, narrow. Look at it. A tall, narrow, in this type of structure, each manager has a small number of subordinates reporting directly to him. Do you get it? That's the meaning of tall, narrow. The second one that we have, so tall, narrow means the smaller number of subordinates reporting to him. This one will make the manager to be more effective in supervision. So the features of the tall, narrow, I've put them. Let's look at one or two. Supervising lower number of staff, that is tall, narrow. What are the features of tall, narrow? Formatting in relationship between managers and subordinates. Yes, that will be cordial relationship. Team building, and it will be easier for the manager to harness, coordinate activities because they are not much. Two, close supervision. Close supervision. So having look at tall, narrow, we have white flat. What do we call white flat? In the white flat, in this type of structure, each manager has a large number of subordinates reporting directly to him. The number of subordinates that we are now supervising, there are many. So this one creates difficulties, challenges, at times conflicts, because there are many. And we have challenges in coordinating the activities. So for achieving greater results, it is advisable that the company should embrace tall, narrow approach. Assign limited number of subordinates to managers or supervisors. So next we have outsourcing. Outsourcing. In purchasing time, we call outsourcing subcontracting. That is what we call it in purchasing. And it's still the same thing. We cannot call it here the same name. Outsourcing. What do we call outsourcing? So under outsourcing, A company does not need to carry out operation itself. I think the way that statement was put, I don't really like it. That a company does not need to carry out operation itself. It depends on situation. Do you get it? Complaints, so far it is their line of operation and specialization. You can carry out operation by yourself. But due to one circumstances or the other, like for instance, let me give you one. Make or buy decision. Make or buy. Are we to make, produce internally, or buy, outsource? When we discover that it is more profitable, it saves time, we can be able to meet up with the project completion time, save costs, and earn more profit when we give out this contract to a reputable organization that specializes in that field. Then we can buy. Buy means that we should outsource. But it is not profitable, and we discover that we don't have company that have the competency and the rest, we can still meet up the project completion time. We can do it internally. That means outsourcing is not something that we just do freely. Circumstances normally bring about outsourcing decision by company. Some of the factors causing the outsourcing are many. So in outsourcing, we give part of the project or the entire project to a company. That company, we call it subsidiary company or third party company. We give that work to them to execute. In some outsourcing decision, if that contract is awarded by a customer to our company, the customers might not know that we outsource. And it might frown at it that we outsource. But in some instances, we are in a situation whereby some customers will be aware of our outsourcing decisions. They might be aware of our outsourcing decision. Or they might say, at a certain stage in the supply chain, let's also complain and do this. Like for instance now, we gave a building to Julius Berger. After construction, we say the roofing sheet should be awarded to Nigerite. That is outsourcing decision. But any company that we are giving outsourcing job to must be able to establish their area of specialization, competency and core competence, availability of financial strength, needed equipment, and experienced and skilled staff, so that we will not be able to run into any litigation problem. So what are the reasons for outsourcing? There are many. Among the reasons for outsourcing, you are going to see it under this section, but let me just mention one or two or three. Reasons for outsourcing. One, due to make or buy decision that I mentioned. It is profitable to outsource the work than doing it internally. Two, lack of needed equipment, technology, and innovation. And yet we have been awarded the contract. We don't have the facility to do it internally. We can outsource it. Three, limited project completion. The time given to us is so small that we cannot be able to compete. And we have some other works, project at hand. We can give it to another competent company that has been tested, that we have done business with. Lack of technical know-how is there. At times, it might be lack of financial strength because they don't give us mobilization fee, or the few advance fee given to us. That thousands of millions of naira is not enough to push the work. We can outsource part of it. So, what are the problems with outsourcing? That can be litigation problem from the director. We can sue the third party can sue us. Difficulties in doing the work in accordance with the specification given to the customers can give problem with outsourcing. Disappointments and many more. So these are some of the things that we have to look at. And that's the reason why before you outsource, look at the company reputation, their previous and past work, their area of specialization, evidence of registration and tax payment, availability of needed equipment, experienced staff, and many more. All these factors we must consider it, including the location, because you must have proximity so that we can be able to go there and do expediting. monitor work in progress. So lastly for today is virtual organization. Virtual organization. Who are those people that we call virtual organization? The virtual organizations, uh, they are companies that we all know. The virtual companies or virtual organization does not have any identifiable physical existence. So simply means that they are companies that operate through the digital platform. They operate through the net. They are virtual organization. And they don't have physical presence that in that we cannot say this is their head office, this is their branches. Even some of them, once they have one company, they might not have multiple branches because all their activities has been automated. So they operate online. That's the people that we call virtual organization. So what are the features of virtual organization? They have flat organization structure, such as matrix structure, because they operate across numerous boundaries. There is no nation they cannot transfer business with. They overcome geographical boundaries. They are everywhere on the internet. Another feature is they are dynamic and flexible to changes in the business environment. So, three, the communication between members is mostly informal. And if at all if they want to formalize it, it can be through sending of memos, emails, through internet. So the virtual companies too, they embrace WFH, work from home. So if that is understood, what are the merits of virtual organization? One, it saves time, it reduces travel expenses, it eliminates lack of access to needed experts. And another advantage is that employees can be assigned to multiple concurrent teams. Yes, they have a lot of teams, they build a lot of synergy to ensure that the customer's requirement and work is done effectively. And being virtual, the another benefit they derive is this, which I like, that it facilitates work-life balance as compared to going to office 8 o'clock, coming back around 10, 11, sleep for 1 hour, wake up 4 o'clock, rush back to office. Okay, the demerit of virtual organization. One of the demerits is lack of physical interaction between the customers and the company. Another demerit is it could lead to security and regulatory breaches, particularly all these cyber crimes, the fraudster. So we have to be mindful of this. Please, something came to mind that I should inform you under this first topic, strategic change. Let me to take pencil or biro. I just want to list one or two things. I've explained it, but I don't give it subtopic under the note. That reasons why employees resist change. Please, if you are set, let me know the reasons why employees resist change. So, in the course of my lecture, I've made mention of several reasons, but I want you to have a subheading so that when you are reading strategic change, because they can ask you, I can ask severally too in the past exam, that what are the reasons why employees resist change? Can I quickly spell about three or four out? Just occur to me now. Hello? Okay. Some of the reasons why employees resist change are one, lack of communication. Lack of communication, particularly from the onset of the change idea. Lack of communication, particularly from the onset of the change ideas. Two, number two, lack of trust in the management or initiator of the change. Lack of trust from the management or initiator of the change. Lack of trust from the management or initiator of the change. Three, the fear of losing their job threats. fear of losing their job. 4, lack of education, skills, and knowledge gap. Lack of education, skills, and knowledge gap. Number 5, previous experience. There is tendency that the company might have implemented, appeal to them, beg them, implement certain changes in the past, and all the promises are not fulfilled. In the process, some lose their job. So their previous negative experience can make them to resist change. So what can we do as a company? We ask you, what can the company do to overcome the employees' resistance to changes? Oh yeah, put it down, please. Overcoming the employees' resistance to changes. Overcoming the employees' resistance to changes. 1, so the first thing that the company can do is communication and education. We need to educate them of the needs, the rationale for the changes, why the changes is very crucial, the benefit we are going to gain. So we educate them, education and communication. 2, involvement of major resistors. Some of their key resistors. You can be a member of the trade unions. So major resistor. So we involve them. If you don't call it involvement, you can use the word co-opt. 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 That means we integrate part of these employees or their members of trade union to be members of the change committee. So another thing that we can do is reward and compensation. We promise them reward and compensation if they accept the new change and policy of the company. So we have another one, coercion. 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 That is the forceful implementation of the changes. If we have tried all available means to plead, to persuade, to inflict to them, and yet they don't accept our appeal, we can impose it. So apart from coercion, we can do collective bargaining with a representative of the trade union of the workers. So lastly on that is forms of resistance to changes. I'm doing this because I'm trying to look at the areas where they can set question here too. The last thing is, what are the forms of resistance to changes? The form of resistance to changes means that if the employees are saying that no, this thing will not occur, we are not going to accept the policy, it will cause a lot of industrial disharmony, tension, crisis within the organization, a lot of noise. So what are the forms of employees resistance to changes? So the forms of resistance to changes are the following. 1, display of placard. Display of placard. 2, strike. They can threat to strike or embark on strike, and that one will paralyze business activities and bring about of losses to the company and reputational damage. Strike. Number 3, lobbying. LOBBYING. They can lobby major decision makers, governments, and the rest. Lobbying, so that they can reverse that change, or they cannot implement the changes now, or probably postpone it or suspend it till eternity. Apart from lobbying, they can do petition. They can write petition to Nigerian Labour Congress, government agency, petition. In some instances, we see litigation. They can sue the company. Lobbying, litigation. So these are some of the forms of resistance to changes. What the workers will do anytime they don't want a policy to be implemented. So with this, we have come to the end of our lecture today. So I salute you. Say a very thank you to you for your commitment and perseverance. Wish you best of luck. So enjoy the rest of your lectures and your day. All the best. Is there any question, please?